Evening, folks. Evening, Rusty.
Afternoon.
No. It's evening.
I want it to be afternoon.
Right? So, today's episode is going to be a little bit more of a heavy hitter than what we usually do, but we've assembled a great group of guys to discuss mental health, well, men's mental health, and sort all the stuff that kind of goes with that.
Yeah, we're going to ask that all comments left in the video be respectful.
Please.
We'll remove them. We don't need that.
No. This is definitely meant to be somewhere for the guys to feel comfortable and safe to discuss things, and for anybody else that may be struggling in silence to know that they're not alone.
Follicles of fury, blades of iron. Brotherhood of beards, always inspiring men. Amen. Bond forts and laughter, hosts unite forever after. Brotherhood strong, made to name. Laughs and roars, feel no pain. Podcast warriors, host with pride. Brotherhood last side by side. Metal hearts, beard on fire. Two hosts rise, taking us higher. Whiskers thick, voices bolder. Together we stand, shoulder to shoulder. Brotherhood strong, made to made. Laughs and roars, feel no pain. Podcast warriors, hosts with pride. Brotherhood last side by side. No retreat, no surrender. Beer club strong, always remember. Brotherhood strong, made to made. Laughs and roars, feel no pain. Podcast warriors, hosts with pride. Brotherhood last side by side. Strong, made to made. Laughs and roars, feel no pain. Podcast warriors, hosts with pride. Brotherhood last side by side.
All right, we'll start in the order that they came into the studio. So here we go.
I'm glad one of us was paying attention.
I kind of had to.
Evening.
How you doing, brother?
Here we are.
We are. So why don't you introduce yourself and let the viewers know a little bit about you?
All right. So my name is Iñaki, also known as Black Soul, and I'm a patch member from Andorra. In case you don't know what this country is about, it's a tiny speck of a country right between Spain and France. So I'm very glad to be here, and don't you worry about technical issues. I think it's just in the image of what we're going to talk about tonight. We're imperfect, but here we are.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Johnny, how you doing, brother? Welcome back.
Doing good.
Why don't you give everyone a little bit of background about you? I know you've been here before, but new episode.
My name is Johnny. I'm international scout and California president. I've been in the club for about 3 years, a little over 3 years. That's a lot. That's about it.
Hello, evening, guys.
Why don't you tell us a bit about yourself?
My name's Steve. I am part of the PA chapter as a patch member. I am a trash guy for a living, and I hope to pass some positivity and help people out, that show them that they realize that they're not alone with all this.
How you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty good. My name's
Good.
Scout. I'm one of the newest California supporters. I was in the club for about 2 years, and I left for some personal mental health issues. But some of these guys have really been there for me through, and I'm hoping that that can kind of help some of our other brothers in the club be more open to talking about mental health issues.
Now, just a side note, Stout, you may have to speak a little louder. You're a little difficult to hear, brother.
I'll bring the phone a little closer.
There we go. All right. So we've warned everybody that this is going to be a bit of a heavier episode than what we usually do. I think it's best to kind of just dive in the best we can and see where it leads to. So why don't we start by letting everybody know what our each individual struggles are with mental health and all of that funness. Rusty, do you want to start?
Not really, but I will. Let's see. I've got depression, OCD, agoraphobia, generalized anxiety, social anxiety. So, I get all the fun stuff.
So me personally, I have depression, anxiety, PTSD, and I am currently awaiting testing for autism and ADHD, or ADHD as they call it. This was something I've stumbled on within the last year and a half, and definitely took me through some stuff figuring this one out. Iñaki, go ahead, brother.
All right, that was really nice pronunciation.
That's
So it's not an easy name to pronounce. So in my case, I have to join the club with depression. I've been a bullied individual for as far as I know. Some PTSD in the middle, and some slight hints of agoraphobia.
Johnny.
Oh, okay. So I got diagnosed in the past year with major depressive disorder, anxiety disorder, and ADHD. And I'm currently about to go do like blood work and other tests because meds don't really work for me. So, but with that, it's like PTS trauma issues of my past. I'm currently doing therapy for.
Steve, how about you, brother?
I've been diagnosed and been dealing with depression for a while. I've been diagnosed with ADHD at a young age. I think I was in fourth grade when I was diagnosed with that. I have attachment issues and just overall, uh, just anxiety with stuff.
And Stout, how about you, brother?
I was diagnosed with ADHD, I don't know, maybe fifth or sixth grade, and then anxiety disorder, which causes me to feel like the world's against me. It's something I've been dealing with my entire life. I want to look into depression because I do get really depressed and get stuck in a dark place in my head. I have a tendency to create walls and push everybody away.
Well, it sounds like the six of us share some similarities in everything, and I guess we'll find out just how much it does. So, I guess the first thing I want to ask is what's been your biggest struggle with being, who you are and who your mental health is? Because at the end of the day, who we are, like, we are not our mental health issues, but they will absolutely play a role and take a toll on how we are perceived and how we live our day-to-day life.
How should we start?
So you know what? Let's start with who hopped on first, and we'll go Rusty, me, you, and we'll just continue on that way each question.
Oh,
All
I
right.
get first again. I guess somebody's got to, huh? I think the biggest challenge is the days when I'm just not feeling myself, like the depression or anxiety has me, and I'm either worried about everything or I don't give a damn about anything. And which always makes either one worse because it's always like, I do care. Everybody knows I care, but I'm also not, you know, the guy that's in the dumps and sad about everything. So, just give me some space. And I think sometimes it's hard for people to understand.
No, I get that. Um, Ultimately, you will come across people that don't battle mental health and don't understand, and they can't understand. And I've noticed personally, it's really hard to try to explain to somebody that's never been through it how this affects you. Yeah, it's in my head, but that's the issue. It's in my head, and it's stopping everything. So for me personally, I mentioned on the chronic pain episode that I have a rare condition with several secondary conditions that cause me chronic pain every day. I'm currently losing my knee joints and need two full knee replacements on top of two other surgeries within the next 5 years. Now, I went from watching myself be on the go for 16 hours a day, and I've just watched myself dwindle. I can't do anywhere near the stuff I used to do. And that will absolutely try to pull you down into the pits. And there are days that I beat myself up because I can't do what I used to do. And I won't be able to until I get my knees replaced. But at my age, it's not a good idea right now. Um, and to watch yourself change that much. I did the same thing to my hips when I was a teenager and I needed hip replacements. I was in a wheelchair for 8 years, and I reached a point I couldn't even look myself in the mirror. I couldn't recognize who I was. I was antisocial. The thoughts of, self deletion were constantly there. It was, and it didn't matter how many antidepressants, how much anti anxiety meds, how much they gave me, it never got better because my mindset was I'm worthless. Everyone's got to wait on me. Everyone's got to I can't do anything for myself. It hurts too much, and I fought hell and high water to come back from that. So my biggest struggle right now while I'm losing my knees is making sure I don't return to the person that I was when I was missing my hip joints. So every day it's a battle knowing that this is happening to me, but it's not permanent and things will get better. The depression doesn't want you to remember that though.
In my case, on one hand, it's of course, like you mentioned, self-deprecation is an issue, a great issue. Uh, it's a constant battle of trying not to beat yourself up over something you have no control over in the end, remembering that you're not your mental health issues. then there's a sense of like everything's on replay. Whenever you fall once again into that dark pit where everything is dark, it's like, here we go again. And it's the constant need to break away from that cycle, because you feel like all I'm doing is feeling bad and crying, and I'm tired of this. I want to live. And well, I've got to say, it's taken me a while to get to the point where I can say I want to live. Um, then it's also the fact that people around you, I keep telling them, you don't know me yet. All you've seen is the depressed version of myself. You haven't seen the real me yet. It's coming, but you haven't seen it yet. So in my case, my mental health issues are linked with high capacities. When I was 7 years old, I had the brain of a 14-year-old. And of course, this comes with a lot of strings attached. It's got its perks, but it's linked to higher degrees of sensitivity. Um, and it's just understanding how you function so you can better manage yourself. I think that's one of the greatest issues, but it's a work in progress. We're getting there.
And that's the thing about mental health is if you want to, there's no way to ever defeat your mental health, but managing it and keeping it where it's not altering who you are and having you make impulsive decisions or withdrawing from the world and from your friends and family, and that you can do. So putting together those tools so you always have them readily available is paramount to dealing with mental health.
Absolutely.
Johnny, how about you? What's your biggest struggle, brother?
For me, it's at a at a teenage. I was like 12, 14. My family made me think that, maybe drilled into me that I was never going to amount to anything in my life. Like I got dropped out of school. I started working full time. Like started doing all this. So I got this fear of failure. Like it didn't matter what I was going to do. Like if I didn't drive till I was 29, because I was afraid if I did drive, I wasn't gonna, if I tried, I was gonna crash, or wasn't gonna get it. Like, everything just built up that I wouldn't try to get a new job because I was gonna fail the interview. And so now I'm not so much like that, but I still almost daily do something that makes me feel like I'm a failure, and that everyone's just better off without me. And it's taken me a while. Like for a long time, I numbed myself, but in the past couple of years, like stuff's been coming up, and like you said, cry or whatever. Like I'll if I could have a great day and I do one thing that kind of spins it, I spiral really bad, and I start freaking out, and I start getting in my head like, I you just mess everything up. Why you do this? You always just mess it up. Like you can't go one day, and that's my biggest struggle, is just to like not let something that could be just a small problem just go and deal with it. I just try to change it, and I can't change it, and I've always been a fixer. So I just try, and then I end up angering people because I'm not leaving it be, and it could have just been left alone. And I'll be looking in the mirror, just talking the worst to myself, and wanting to do something, but never actually fully going through with it. But it's been my big struggle for like the past year. Well, forever, but it's been more apparent in the past year.
I feel that I understand that putting pressure on yourself to always do your absolute best because failure is not an option. I get you, brother. More than you know. I get it.
I think the thing that sucks too is because of that, compliments, I don't take them very well. Like they give me such bad freaking anxiety. Like I have a new boss, and he called everyone to just brag about something that I did, and I had my head in my hands today. Like, why is this happening? Like, why I don't like all eyes on me. I'm playing like pool and I'm in a tournament and people are watching me, I freak out. I'm like shaking really bad, and it affects anything that I'm usually up in front. Like video meetings used to be bad too. I'd be out of breath the whole time. I'm a lot better now though.
Good. I get you. We use an app for work to message and give directives and whatnot. Anytime I'm not at the shop and I hear that particular vibration on my phone, my heart sinks. I'm just like, what? What did I do? What's happened? Because for me, if I'm flying under the radar and doing my job well, we're good. You guys have no reason to speak to me, but my boss is like, he gives Christmas bonuses and handwritten cards, and I'm like, I'm incredibly awkward and I don't know what to do with this. And like, why are you talking to me? Don't just go. Let me do my job, man, and go home. Like, go away.
Yeah, that's very much how I am. I like if they're talking about me in a great way, I'm just sitting there like crawling out of my skin, just like bleeding for it to be done. And then but then I don't let those words stay. Like I'll do something later on in the day where I just mess something up so small, and everything that's happened that whole day, it's like my brain wipes it out, and I'm the worst person in the world.
Yep, I get it. Steve, how about you, brother?
Me, I mean, sorry if I sound little out of it. Lost my voice a little bit today, but for me, it's I sit here, I question everything. So I can sit here and I know personally I'm doing a good job, but deep down, I always end up questioning, are you sure you're doing a good job? Is this what is actually being asked of you? Um, there's time like with you, like I'd rather fly under the radar, be left alone. And it is like I said, certain points during the day, like when my phone goes off and I'm at work and I know it's the office calling me. And my thing is like, why? What could you possibly want from me now? What did I mess up? It just the constant overthinking and constantly being in your head, it really gets to me at times. And I've been called, being put down my whole life, not necessarily by family, but just by everybody around me, being called a POS, like you're not going to amount to anything, you're never good enough. And, and that's kind of transpired in a lot of things in my life when it comes to work, relationships. When a relationship fails, it's like, well, why? Like, why aren't I good enough? I'm just, and I do. I lose a lot of sleep over it at nights, and there are times where, like, if I'm really feeling down about myself, I stand in front of a mirror and I scream at myself at times. And there's been a few times that I've, you know, punched a wall or, just kind of like smacked myself in the head just because I feel like I'm worthless. Like I'm not worth anything to anybody. And like, I mean, I know otherwise, you know what I mean? Like it's, I know the truth. I know I'm doing a good job. I know I'm worth X, you know what I mean? XYZ to so-and-so or to everybody around me. But it's that overthinking. It's that depression that keeps pulling me back in the darkness that, it's just, it's very hard to escape most days.
It's it is one of the tougher things because mental health doesn't have logic. That's a whole other voice in your head going, A, B, and C isn't true. Don't listen to that negative chatter. But that negative chatter, when it starts screaming, and it doesn't matter how much logic you meet it with. You at that point, you were just white knuckling your existence and waiting for it to end.
Oh, absolutely. And then, like I said, keeps me up at night. Like that's why I said, like, I question everything, and it really does suck. When you have depression and you have ADHD on top of it, because you get that something shiny moment, and then there's that sense of you feel great, but then it's now we're bringing you back down. Like you don't need to be up there. That's not where you're not worthy. You're not supposed to be there. This is where you're supposed to be. And like, it's a daily struggle. Like I can sit here and, you know, I can put on, you know, like I'm a happy go lucky guy and, you know, try to help others feel better about themselves. But, you know, deep down, I'm literally screaming, you know, I'm right there with you. I need help myself.
Yep. I think the one that drives me the craziest is when I'm going through something and somebody notices something's just a little bit off with me and they're like, "Are you okay?" And my immediate response without, "Yeah, I'm all right. It's fine." Meanwhile, in my head, it's, "No, you're not. Stop. Stop. You lying. We don't like lying. Knock it off." But at the end of the day, it's nobody else cares about what's happening up here. This is my responsibility. It's not yours. I'll be fine.
Right.
Stout, how about you, brother?
I actually can relate a lot to Steve. Um, Mine's a little very similar. A lot of mine is when I start feeling like the world's against me, and the ADHD kicks in, where it's like you said, you see something shiny and then it makes you feel better. But sometimes what you see is not shiny, and it brings you down even further. And when I get stuck in that dark hole, immediately I I start destroying everything around me. All my loved ones, anything going good in my life, I have a tendency to destroy it, and then I'll regret it days later. And it's like a cycle that I personally have been struggling getting out of. And
Uh, when you recognize those issues within yourself and start taking the steps to change that, because you know it's negative, it's detrimental to your overall well-being, that's a battle in and of itself, and most people won't realize how much of a struggle it is to change something that feels like it's hardwired. You know, it's like trying to climb a 90-degree inverse while trying to roll the boulder up the hill. You know, and it's unless you are determined and absolutely willing to accept nothing less than removing most of that negativity from your life or allowing it to control your actions, it's just a constant battle. And the one thing I've noticed people seem to not click into is just because we go to therapy or get help for something, once it's done, that doesn't mean the issue is fixed right then and there. It's a daily thing after that. You have simply just been given the tools to manage that. But every day you have to use those tools. There's no two ways about it. One day without your tools, you're backsliding 2 days.
Absolutely.
You know, and and if you do realize that you yourself backslide, that starts the negative chatter all over again, that you messed up, you're worthless, you know, you can't accomplish the goals you've set, you know, you're powerless over this. And nobody on the face of the earth likes to feel any sense of being powerless, especially when it comes to yourself. We like to think, "Oh, I don't like this about me, I can change this." But we fail to admit that it's not that easy.
it's one of the hardest things. I struggle with it every day when I go to work. Uh,
So
I
actually,
feel like all the other journeymen and apprentices on the job site, they're out to take my job or one up me, and,
yep.
or they're talking behind my back. Like I feel worthless a lot of times, just even in everyday life at work. When I come home, same thing. It's like I just feel like I could be doing so much better. Like I don't know. I don't know how to fully
Well,
comprehend sometimes.
and that's another issue you're going to run into. And the one thing I didn't account for before starting this episode, in my head, I can recite everything that's wrong up here flawlessly. I know everything point by point. But the moment I go to verbalize what's up here, it's I have issues. Okay, like that. Leave me be. Verbalizing, unless you have it jotted down, you're just like, there's things, man. There's some screws loose. I'm okay though, but like,
But in reality, are we okay?
it's nobody is going to actually be able to determine that but you. You know what I mean? You can have Tom, Dick, and Harry give you their opinion about whether you're okay, but that's self-reflection. That's taking a walk through your own head and going, have I put right enough of the stuff for me to live? Where a bad day, it's just a bad day. There are other days, and they're not all going to be bad. But your
I think
point,
society though, like they make it so men especially, like we have to always be okay. Like if you act like you're not okay, then you're not strong. You're not this. You're not that. So deep down, we're rooted to be like, okay, we're always fine. We'll deal with it on our own. But the fact is, we can't. There's no way. That's where you start. That's when you start doing all the stuff that we've all been talking about. It's like you need to open up and be able to talk about stuff. I think that's like where now we're starting a good starting point for that.
Absolutely, and I think we need to start also mentioning, because there's one thing I don't like about certain approaches to mental health, and it places a lot of pressure on the people who are suffering from those mental health issues, without recognizing that it's actually a reaction what we got to something that's happening outside. All of you have mentioned, and I wholeheartedly agree, because I felt the same way myself. When you're thinking that you're worthless, that you can't do something, that you're never going to amount to anything, these are things that have been told to us, and these are messages that we have absorbed, reinterpreted, and then put forward again, but this time with our own voices. We are in the end our worst enemies, but we've been made that way in a certain sense. So I think it's okay to start saying, we are not feeling okay. And it's fine to talk about it, but maybe it's high time we started to treat each other better.
yep.
I
Uh,
completely agree with that statement.
100%.
so Johnny, what you were saying about society and the stigma they put on us, I know for me that hasn't helped me in my 36 years on this earth, but I got exposed to that particular mindset early. I remember being a little kid. Something happened. I hurt myself and I was crying. Kids cry when they hurt themselves. It's just a reality. And I remember my father. He's a big reason why I have the mental health issues I have. He looked at me and said, "Knock it off. Real men don't cry. Real men don't feel emotions." So I took that from a small child, and that is how I have lived most of my life. Um, when I was a teenager, I was a victim of a violent crime. I had to defend my family in a fist fight. Um, and I became even more withdrawn than I usually am. I'm not good at peopling. Um, and that's how my mom got me tested and diagnosed with PTSD, because my emotions were gone. It was after that particular incident where I felt I had to become the man of the house and put away my childish things. And so real men don't feel emotions. And that's how I lived from the age of 14 to within the last couple years. I've started accepting the fact that it's okay for me to feel things. It's fine.
Right? It's always, and you just got to remember that it's always okay to talk about it. Like that's, I would always be the person that people call, talk about their stuff, and I would just listen. And then it's like whenever I felt like I could, I'd call the same people, and then they were never around. So it's just like no one gave a crap. So then you get deeper in your hole. You're like, you're just a person that people use and then walk away from. So then you get this fear of abandonment. Like you don't want to open up too much because they're just going to leave anyways. They don't really care that much, you know?
Or throw it back at you.
Yeah.
That was the one I ran into, you know. Someone's like, "Oh, you can talk to me," so you trust that and you open up. And then the moment they get ticked off at you, what you opened up about and allowed yourself to be vulnerable about gets thrown in your face.
Yeah.
This it's a dirty tactic. It's terrible to do do something like that to somebody. You know, once you break that trust, it's so hard to get that back. And the ones who had their trust broken, we revert even further into ourselves. We refuse to open up, and because we've learned if we do it, either people are going to abandon us or they're going to throw back in our faces, and both of these options suck.
Hmm.
Venga, right back at you. Now, imagine having this done to you in therapy
That
by
would have,
your therapist,
it sucks. I had a
because
therapist tell me that
because
was probably a
that, that,
disappointment.
that, that that's happened to me. I was misdiagnosed with a personality disorder, and the minute I started to put two and two together and to realize, no, none of this is making sense to to what I'm feeling, and telling that person, I'm not feeling comfortable. I think I want to stop the session right here. She started to attack me. Oh, I can't tell you anything. You're always overreacting to everything. We need to talk about certain of your beliefs. She invented my sexual preferences as well. She had a whole film laid out in her head, and whenever I deviated from that and tried to tell her, this is not who I am, she snapped back at me. And so, how do you trust anybody else after that? Luckily, I managed to get a better therapist, and I'm way happier right now than I used to be. But uh, it's not something that should be done. When you open yourself up to another person, respect that. Please respect that, and be mindful of the words you say and how you pronounce them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Personally,
had a
I had that.
psychiatrist
Sorry.
tell me that because I was unemployed and living with my parents, that I was probably a serious embarrassment to them. Yeah, it was, and I was there for depression and anxiety at the time that was just completely out of control, and she threw that at me. I went home and it took everything in me not to hang myself. It was it, it was devastating.
This is what I mean. People don't understand that their words are carry so much weight, because for those of us that take words and add 1,000 pounds to them, that's we don't control that. It's an immediate reflex. Here's something crappy about you. Now you're going to go and beat the ever loving hell out of yourself until you're thinking about doing something you may end up regretting.
It's because we've heard it for so long that anytime we hear it, we internalize it. We just think,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, well, this person knows.
Yeah.
I think I beat myself up enough. It's time to
It's like,
move forward. I've been
Yeah.
blaming myself for everything that happens around me at a very young age. Um, I went through. Me and my siblings, we went through something. I don't want to mention names. That you know, child sexual abuse from somebody that was an acquaintance of ours. And when my sister came out talking about it, I must have suppressed it in my head that it had happened to me. They were immediately trying to say that I was doing it to my sister. I was only 12 years old. I didn't even know how all of that worked yet, you know. Like down there as a male, I didn't know what any of it meant yet, and I beat myself up for years about it, feeling like I was the problem. I created this. Like parts of my family don't talk. And the reality is, I have to accept it's not me. It, and if people believe that I'm the problem, then they can stay away from me. I mean, it's a tough subject to talk about, but I thought I should bring it up. It's part of the reason I have so much anxiety and mental
Yep.
depression or shutting off to the world. That's the best way I can explain it.
Well, it's like, and
Well,
then you have stuff like that happen, and then it's hard for you to trust. And then when you do trust somebody, and they act like they're there for you, and then they're just there for themselves. So I had something happen the past year. Like my girlfriend and I, we lost. She was pregnant. We lost our baby. I was really depressed for a bit, and I was going through stuff. And there was one person that was there particularly for me the most. Come to find out, like he was just like, oh, he needs to be gone. He needs this. Like he was talking a lot behind me, behind my back, like, oh, he's just gonna wait till I have another mental breakdown and all this stuff. Like, and I opened up to him. So it's like, why? How are you gonna go trust somebody? You have your family you can't trust a lot of the times because of whatever they've done. You have, therapists or mentors that do the same thing. So who do you trust?
yeah.
It was like, and then it's hard to each time it gets harder to open up.
Right. I think for me, it's one of those where a lot of these issues when it comes to trusting people and everything is because a lot of this stuff is drilled in our heads and to make us feel a certain way and believe a certain thing about ourselves at such a young age. Like people, like you said, like who we look up to, who, such as like teachers, therapists, doctors, you know, family members, people that we look up to are the ones that essentially, created some of the um, mental issues that we have.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely, and I think it's unfair because the judgment and comparisons, it's a non-issue because in the end, who can really claim that they don't have mental issues? If those things have been done to us, it's because those other people, they've got a problem as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. You're not wrong. But I've come to find that people that do stuff like that, they're not willing to admit that they have their own issues.
Never.
So they're more than happy to throw you under the bus and screw you over and play it off like it was all you. It wasn't me. It was all you. And you end up feeling like you're taking crazy pills because you're like, no, you did A, B, and C. And
Absolutely.
stuff like that. If again, if you're not on top of it, it's gonna mess with you and it's gonna pull you back into even worse spots. Like just living life with mental health issues, unless you are completely removed from everybody, it's a minefield. Just walking out the door, you can trigger something.
Oh yeah.
Well, with to go to with into that, this is something you and I had discussed um, about 6 weeks ago, maybe 2 months ago. what I have a tendency to do is I have a tendency to shut off to the world and anybody around me. I want to push them as far away because I don't want anybody around me while I'm in that vulnerable state. And in the long run, all it actually does is hurt me more.
Yep.
And that's something where I got to get out of. Me personally, I have to get out of that headspace where I could have reached out. Somebody would have responded within our club and had been there. You know, rather than just sitting there dwelling in my own thoughts and ultimately leaving the club
Yep.
because I just wanted everything that I loved around me as far away as possible. And it's just not the right way of thinking.
I think one of the reasons I'm glad we're doing this episode is I feel like a lot of the members of our clubs have this particular mindset that nobody cares, and it takes seeing that we do in fact care. Like you guys have seen me on the server. I'm not the chattiest individual. I'm a socially awkward person. I'm, unless it's face to face or like I can see who I'm talking to, it's very hard for me to bridge that gap. But if you need somebody, you need to talk to somebody, just vent. My DMs are open, and I will say that until my last breath. You need a phone call, you need whatever. You let me know, and I'll be there. It's but reassuring that is there, and doing a podcast episode like this so people can see our faces and see, like, here's 6 guys in this club, we all deal with this. Still, like you were saying, if you ever go through something like that again, I want you to be able to look back at this episode and be like, you know what, that's right, I got sons of bitches there that are more than happy. Give me a call and listen to me rant, rave, cry, scream, whatever I need, just to keep you here and help keep you grounded.
100%.
I know. When I was going through some stuff, and I mean, we all, like I said, we all do every day, but I was kind of in seclusion. I secluded myself from a lot of people, and in this group, there has been a lot of people that have, private messaged me, saying if you need to talk, we're here. I've got a few numbers from a couple guys from my chapter, and it's the hardest thing for me is, and don't get me wrong, I'm very appreciative of everybody who has reached out and has offered that avenue to vent and talk. And I'm pretty sure, you guys can agree. At least for me, my thing is trying to, and it all comes back to the whole trust thing. It's hard for me to open up to somebody and talk about what's going on in my mind, because every time I've ever tried, I've either been mocked, made fun of, put down, told to suck it up and deal, or they just don't want to hear it. And that's a lot. That weighs a lot on me every day when it comes to my day-to-day life. And that's part of another reason why I stay up at night, is because I have so much stuff that I need and want to talk about. But it's finding the right person or the right people or group that I trust enough to sit there and say, okay, here's everything.
Yep. You're not
Absolutely,
wrong.
because the message you get is nobody's gonna care. Nobody's gonna care, but you're desperate to
Right.
just vent, to just express what you're feeling, and you kind of tell yourself, "No, I'm gonna toughen it up. I'm not gonna say anything, but it's like this constant vicious circle that you need to get out of.
Right,
Mm.
it is, and for me, it's one of those where because it's hard for me to kind of trust, individuals and be able to open up and everything. I've gotten myself to the point where I just look at things and go, you know what, it is what it is. I'll figure it out. And even though I can sit here and say that with as much confidence and everything, in my voice and just continue my day to day life, deep down, I'm screaming, no, it's not. It is what it is. You won't figure this out. You've got to welcome, that help, that avenue in your life. That way, and not that it disappears, but that way it lessens the the overwhelmingness of the darkness of of our minds that can very well possibly lead to our end, because we don't have that avenue to talk to.
I think the hardest part is just like everyone's got to remember that if you're feeling like you said, it's just like it is what it is. I used to use that term all the time, and now I've just come to hate it whenever I use it because I know exactly it's not. It isn't. It's we have some people in our chapter that's just like they're going through stuff, and they don't let us know. And so sometimes you just, and I do the same thing. Stout he used to call me all the time when I was going through my stuff, and I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to let people know I wasn't doing okay. I could have answered the phone and talked for a little bit and just vented, but during that time, I gone through this stuff with the other person that I was talking about earlier, and I just didn't really want to do that again. And yeah, it's just we gotta be able to verbalize it and communicate with each other. Admit it.
I still call you every day, by the way.
Sometimes, not all the time.
Not all the time, but
You heard him, Stout. You got to up the ante, brother. Every day, at least once a day. On days where you're not working, you ain't got much to do, I want to hear like 6 phone calls a day.
oh, to Johnny or to you?
I mean, I'm versatile. See, Stout knows. Stout is a brother that has leaned on me in the past, and he knows that if he messages me on Discord and doesn't get an answer right away, text me. I'll see that quickly, and I'll be like, oh, and I'll hop on the Discord. I'm like, all right, what's going on? I'm here. Blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. It's because that, like, for me personally, I am a man that,
It's likewise.
but it's that trust is very important to me. I was raised with some very old school values, and if somebody trusts you, that's you need to honor and respect that. That's important. So I gave this man my word that if he needed me, I'd be there. So doesn't matter day or time. You need me, I'm going to show up. And it's having those types of relationships are so important. Our president, Darth Beard, he lives 20 minutes away from me. I can get to his place real quickly, or he can get to me. It took a while for me to be able to trust that I can open up to him about things, because he would always, you got something going on, talk to me. That's what I'm here for. I'm your brother, blah, blah, blah. But it was always, yeah, on the surface, but what if you're like the rest? And I will say several times I've been going through it, and I have come very close to just leaving the club and being done with it. And I just wanted to isolate myself that much further. And as soon as I got into that mindset, I'd be texting him like, "Hey, dude, I'm thinking about hitting that exit server button. Like, I'm over it." And he would talk me down off that ledge. And you know what? I will forever be thankful for that man. Keep me in check, because there have been times where my temper and my stress and my anxiety. One of my big things particularly in the club. One of the reasons why I chase board positions as aggressively as I have over the years is because I feel if I'm not serving a purpose, I have no value, much like the rest of you. So I'm wanted in the club as long as I'm serving a purpose. I'm a chapter president. I'm an international vice president. Before that, I was the international enforcer. So as long as I was serving those purposes, the club want me around. But if I took a step back to deal with my stuff, people would immediately go, he's not good enough. And that was my mindset. People were thinking I wasn't good enough because I wasn't. So I always had to be on point, and I ended up just burning myself out over and over again. And when you hit that burnout, it takes an even greater toll on you, and it causes a far more aggressive spiral. And it's at some point you have to say enough is enough. Logically, I know that my brothers love me. They don't want me to leave the club. They don't want me to go anywhere. And I fight hell and high water to keep that negative chatter at bay so I don't let it get the better of me and end up having me do something that I'm going to regret. Because right now I'm going through one of the more difficult situations that I have in my life with losing whole ass body parts. I want my brothers. I want that connection because I know where this is going to take me building up to the knee replacements. And I want to be able to have you guys and all my brothers to lean on when stuff starts getting hairy.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here. I'm kind of feeling like an asshole.
You are. I mean, sorry, why? What's going on?
You guys have all opened up, and I've said like 5 minutes into. I feel like I haven't opened up at all. So I guess I got to say something. Otherwise,
Hit us, brother.
So my biggest issue currently is our financial situation. It is very depressing, and it all leads back when my ex left me. She cheated on me with my best friend at the time, and literally, when you're engaged to somebody, you spill everything about yourself. Like there's nothing about you they don't know. Well, she decided to tell her friend group everything. So it was literally like I lost myself to just everybody we knew. And then I found out my dream job was hiring, which leads back to like court officer, like bailiff and stuff like that. I remember watching like the People's Court and Judge Wapner, and he had the bailiff, and I was like, "That's so cool! I want to do that." For the first time in New York, they opened it up to the public, and I tested for it. Tested great. It was like the high 90s on the written test, wit and physical. And that didn't go so well. And then I found out about my neck, which completely disqualified me from my dream job, like ever. And then my ex was taking me to court for trying to take our son from me. And, the whole process with finding out I was basically going to be disabled for the rest of my life. And it was basically the rock bottom. I'd lost everything. I'd lost, well, for the better at this point, but at the time I didn't know it. I'd lost, my fiance. I'd lost my dream job, my health. Basically, who I was had been exposed to everybody to just mock, which they were really good at, by the way. And it got to the point where I was as close to a nervous breakdown as I ever want to get. Like, I could feel it coming. Everything was anxiety, and everybody was against me. Like, everybody, my parents, therapists, doctors, you name it. I just thought everybody was out to get me. So it took 5 years of therapy, meeting the love of my life before I finally got turned around. It was bad. I don't ever want to go that low, but every time I come up against a money situation, it throws me right back to that time where everything was taken from me, including the dream job I could have had. I could have been doing it now. And then, of course, well, like I told you, Leprechaun, I studied to be a peer counselor, which is somebody who's been through therapy and understands what it's like to have a mental illness, to talk with other people that have it. I tested for that. I got my provisional certification, so I could have gone into that until my wife wisely pointed out that sometimes people with mental illnesses aren't always trustworthy. And if it come down to something physical, I would never be able to defend myself properly. So that was like another dream job out the window. So, sometimes I just sit and I feel really worthless when we're struggling for money because I know that I'm so limited and it's nothing I can do about it.
I feel that. um, you know, I'm physically disabled myself, and one of the reasons I'm in as bad a shape as I am now is because that voice always telling me that I have to be better, do better. I can't half ass anything. So any goal I set, I had to push myself to a consistent breaking point. And every time I would accomplish a goal, I never took my time to enjoy that. It was, let's set the next one. My goals were my dopamine. And I've pushed myself to a point where I had to take a break from college because I hurt my knee so badly I can't walk around the campus. And I can't focus enough to sit on my computer and do it online. Like I need that school setting to focus. If I'm on my laptop doing schoolwork, my brain's gonna wander 6 ways from Sunday. Um, so because everything I did to get me to where I am now physically, now I'm sitting there going, you're not going to amount to much. You're 36 years old. What have you done? What have you're single. You're working a job that is not your career. Don't get me wrong. I love working in a vape shop. It's always been a hyperfixation of mine, but it's not the end all careers where I'm like looking at my bank account going, we're good. There's not a concern here. It's just not a reality. So when I look at that stuff and the real world, position in life, financial status, etc., I don't feel like I'm good enough to be sitting with other people my age that are doing everything that I should have done, but wasn't able to because of either mental or physical health, had me on the sidelines for X amount of years.
And it's hard to look at the people around you and think, "Oh, that could have been me," but my body hates me. And
Yep.
Then I think it's pretty important to get to the point, because that's something I had to learn, and I'm still learning, of course, through therapy. To just try not to change yourself, accept who you are, the way that you are, and understand where everything comes from. Um, I do get that feeling when you're looking at other people your age and thinking, oh, this could be me, but then they have their own set of problems as well, and not the
Yeah.
resources that you possess or the experience that you now have. So that there's always, I think, regardless of the situation, a certain value, a certain worth to being yourself.
Yep.
And I think that's something we need to tell ourselves more often,
It's
and just to tell ourselves good things, since other people will not tell us nice things, gentle things, to learn to be kind to ourselves, regardless of the situation. I'm a trained conference interpreter, but I'm working as an assistant archivist. It was not something that I had planned, like,
yeah.
at all. But I've learned in life not to make plans, or at least not long-term plans. to see where I am being led to and try to make the most out of it. I'm very lucky right now. I'm working with a person who's passionate about their job, and he's a very gentle person, teaching me the ropes, and I'm hoping that one day I can succeed him as the archivist of the town that I'm working at right now. But I've had to face those feelings of you're not adequate enough for your age when you look at other people, and to try and move past that. You are who you are. You've survived countless ordeals with the tools that you had at your disposal at the moment. Be proud.
Yep. That's definitely something I've had to teach myself. That look, these individuals may have A, B, and C, but I guarantee in these several situations, you're the one to handle that. They have no idea what they're doing. That's you. You bring other stuff to this table, you're fine. It's okay. Breathe.
Absolutely. What I'm seeing right now in here are 5 plus 1 myself, rather brave people who've had to endure quite a lot of cruel things, some of them willingly put in your way, some of them, just when it comes to certain disabilities and whatnot. Of course, you have no control over those things, but you're going through these things and you're surviving, and on your way to not just surviving but living in a rather graceful manner. So I think all of us right here and those who are listening to us, we deserve a little pat on the back.
I can't reach.
So I think the question I want to ask you lads, what was the tipping point for you where you were like, all right, you know what? I gotta get some help with this.
I think I answered that. Yeah, literally
Yeah,
when everything was.
you have.
Yeah, I lost everything. So yeah, that's when I knew I needed help because I wasn't gonna be able to do it on my own anymore.
Yep. Steve, why don't we start with you?
All right. I think for me, that really kind of changed a lot in my life was just the simple fact that it seemed like no matter what I've done, it never seemed to have been good enough. Like when it comes to relationships, jobs. Um, so I mean, and as of right now, I am. So I had stepped down as my chapter's lieutenant because due to some issues, and one of them is I've been fighting my kid's mother for the last 10 years. And every fight that she's always tried to blame me for you know all sorts of abuse to the kids, all sorts of like I don't deserve to be in their lives. Me and my family were nothing but trash. And so as of right now, she has gone out and put a PFA out on me against my kids, stating that I've hit my kids and everything like that, which I have not. Um, but she has put me in a fight that I don't think there's an outcome that I could win to morally and ethically, as a parent, feel comfortable with the win, because it's more of I'm trying to keep my kids' mental health, keep that as priority with all of this. But with all that being said, I've learned over the years that the best way to overcome a lot of things is through meditation. I've learned that you have to understand that no matter what the situation is, you're above it, and through meditation, you can sit there and you can release all the negative and energy and everything around you. Just you can release it out into the universe and just focus on yourself, focus on who you are as a person. And what that to me, that helps take a big weight off my shoulders, and it helps me every day. But the biggest thing that really got me to reach out and talk about everything, I would have to say, is the fact that just the other day, with everything going on with my kids and everything like that, I snapped. And I mean, now, like I said, I live in a camper. I mean, I'm on my buddy's property and whatnot. But I was sitting here and I couldn't sleep, and just a whole world of thoughts came through my mind, and I had snapped, and I had taken a chair and I've thrown it through one of the wall. I have smashed one of the cabinets, as you can see above me. I've had glass everywhere. I ended up cutting myself, not on purpose, but you know, and I just sat there and I realized, like, I can't do this. I've got to talk about this. And not because I want people to feel sorry for me. It's because I want people to understand, like, there's so much stuff that gets built up that we hide, from the world around us, that when unfortunately it does, it takes us, our minds snapping. Like I said, I smashed some things in a camper, but I mean, that's the best case scenario. I mean, worst case scenario is I could have, taken a dirt nap, and what would that have done, for my kids? What would that have done for my family? Anybody who's cared, and that's why, I kind of wanted to come on here and, you know, express some of my story, and, just bring awareness as well. Like, we're not alone in this. There are people out there who, whether our stories are the same or not, it still comes down to, we all have essentially the same story. We've got so much stuff in our mind that we have to reach out for help. We have to talk about things.
I've definitely noticed venting and talking about your things. It it tends to feel like a weight is coming off your shoulders. You can verbalize or get it and get it out of your head. Before I felt comfortable talking to people, one of the things I used to do was I would sit there with my notebook and I'd write everything as if I was having a conversation with somebody else, and explain what was happening in my head, because of this situation that happened, or this or this. And when I was done, I'd fold it up and I'd set it on fire. And for me, I'd send it off to the universe. You know what? It was in here. I got it out and sent it away. Whatever happens, happens. But at that point, it's out of my hands, and I just and that allowed me to calm down and recenter myself enough where I could become a human being again and
Right.
reintegrate into society and not be looking like I'm brooding around and wanting to kill somebody. I have I know when I'm in a mood I get this face and I become inapproachable, as I've been told. And it's I when it comes to dealing with other people, or like you said, you put a chair through a wall, that type of stuff, I have that immediate reaction. But the other facet of my mental health is I have these guilt complexes, that if I know that if I do something I shouldn't be doing, I I will destroy myself. because of how bad I feel that I did. Now I found out that is something that can be linked to autism, where you you have to behave a certain way. Anything outside of that is wrong. It's bad. You're not allowed to do that, and that's constantly. Somebody picks me up and just me in the I can't yell. I can't scream. I can't do any of that because it's just fix the plate. Oh,
Or internet trouble.
you guys able to see me? I think I'm in air again.
You're frozen and you sound robotic. Nope, you're still frozen. Well, he warned us that was probably going to happen.
That he did.
Oh, there he is.
There we are.
You know what? We've made it over an hour without any issues with the internet, so I'm gonna be thankful for that. And yeah, all right, Stout. How about you, brother? At what point did you feel, all right, I can't do this on my own anymore?
His turn to freeze.
This question is the internet killer.
You're asking the wrong question, apparently.
Yeah.
All right, Stout. I'm gonna give you a minute to get your connection sorted out. Johnny, how about you, brother?
So last year, with some of the situation I was talking about, I was spiraling a lot. That was causing issues with me and my girlfriend. And one day, because I have a son who has ADHD and depression. I believe he has depression. I haven't been told that yet, but I was acting just like him. I was noticing like I was like grabbing my shirt in a way, and I was like not. It was just weird. I kind of like took a step back and like saw that, and I was like, shoot, what if I have ADHD? And then so I called my insurance the next day, got testing done. They're like, all right, you have, major depressive and anxiety, and then did the test for ADHD. They're like, yep, you have that for sure. And but if it wasn't for me like seeing myself in that moment and being like, I'm kind of acting like, my 13-year-old when he spirals, I don't even know if I would have even have gotten tested or anything. I would just acted like I'm just, going through stuff. But that definitely that was the moment where I was able to do something about it and open up my eyes for it.
How about you, Stout? At what point did you decide that you just can't do it anymore?
I think it was
Do it on your own. Sorry.
holidays. I had some religious, some political arguments with my family, and shortly after, the same thing that always happens with them is everything's my fault. I'm wrong. Nothing, there was no discussion. It was just anything of how I feel is wrong, and it sent me in a spiral with some pretty bad decisions at that point. I went on a weekend bender and decided to slowly push everybody that actually does care about me away from me. It's just what I have a tendency to do, and I finally hit a breaking point. And I reached out to you, actually, Leprechaun, and the two of us were talking, and then I started talking to Johnny, and ultimately I realized I'm not alone, and I can't do it alone. Therapy has never worked for me. Going to AA never worked for me. but the brotherhood here has always helped, and I'm confident, and I know I can conquer my fears, my own anxieties, my own depressions. Everything is. I think us all talking about it is the biggest thing. Is it gets it off our chest. We start to realize we're not alone. We all have similar struggles, and I think as a brotherhood, this is something we need to constantly check in on everybody. Check in on each other.
I agree, and it's one of the reasons we use the expression "I got your six" or "We got your six." Is we got your back. If you're going through something, we got you. We even have a chat specifically for all of our guys that have mental health issues. So it's a space where you can go in and talk about what you're going through and what's going on without worrying about somebody changing the topic to something silly about their day, or you can open up and discuss your stuff with other brothers that are going through similar things. My tipping point for me was I've always been different, not just physically, but mentally. I've always seen the world different than everybody else. I've always lived by my own set of rules, and people never made sense to me. And I could never get my brain to stop. One of the reasons I'm an insomniac. This doesn't shut up. It goes 100 miles an hour in every direction. And it to sleep, I had to teach myself mantras to recite so I could focus on those words and not the 35 thoughts flying around in my head. Um, so it was the potential ADHD diagnosis where I'm waiting for testing. That was my tipping point because I researched it up, down, left, right, and center. In fact, one of our members, I was talking to him, and he sent me these links to read up on it, some testing to gauge whether or not you should look into being tested for it. And the more I learned, the more I realized it fit me and a part of me that I had locked away since I was 14 years old. And that realization that all that stuff that I had locked away and I had fought for 2 decades may just be who I am. But furthermore, it fit my father too. And he was, I call him, he was a donor. He was like, he was not a dad by any means whatsoever. He was emotionally distant. We always felt like he didn't love us. He had his hyperfixations and focuses that weren't us. And there's one story about him that resonates with me. They didn't think just after I was born, they didn't think I was going to make it through the night. They thought I had meningitis. And my father was asleep in the parking garage of the hospital in the car. My mom came down and told him that, hey, they don't think your firstborn son's going to make it through the night. And he went, okay, keep me updated, and rolled over and went back to sleep. That emotional disconnect was, and that's always been a thing for me. I don't have emotions like normal people have emotions. And realizing I'm not wrong for that, and just for about 6 months I shut down. I would cry. I would just be so absurdly overwhelmed that there may actually be an answer for this, and it started pulling my headspace down. And great, there's something else wrong with me. Great, blah 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 blah. And my depression hit a point where I finally threw in the towel and said, like, look, I can't do this on my own. My entire life, my depression would tank, my anxiety would get stronger, and I'd have to fight hell and high water just to get it back on track so I can function. And I finally went to my doctor and I got put on antidepressants. And I asked for something. I don't know if it's available in your guys' areas, but here it's called CBT, Cognitive Behavior Therapy. And it was to alter that negative chatter of mine. Because that, when it starts and it gets loud, it's not my days ruined. It's my weeks ruined, my months ruined. And it takes so much to put it back in its box. And what CBT allowed me to do was focus on the real. The my negative chatter says I'm worthless. Okay, look at A, B, and C. These are facts, and these prove that you were a worthwhile human being. You're a good person. You're a good brother. You know, you take care of your mom. You do things just out of the goodness of your heart. You are not worthless. You are not. And with the CBT, I did the online course, and I was able to watch my depression go down, and go down as in reduce its effects because of the tools I was learning in this particular style of therapy. And this is something, every therapy session, I would sit there and go through the tutorial and I would write everything out word for word. So that way I have a hard copy. And if I start going through it again, I don't have to boot up a laptop. I just grab my notebook and it is all right there. And all those positive affirmations about who I am and what I actually bring to the table, and that other people's issues are not my fault. I have it right there in black and white for me, written by me. So it's only been the last year and a half and a bit where I've been like, all right, I have mental health problems and it's okay to talk about this. A man isn't silent. Like, men are allowed to go through things and we're allowed to verbalize these things. And this stigma of we have to just shut up and bear it, this is negative, this is toxic, and it is harmful to us. And how do we be the best versions of ourselves for those around us and those we care about? If we allow nameless, faceless individual society dictate who we're supposed to be. We are who we are. You either rock it or you let it consume you.
100%.
You know, I got no issues looking at you and you guys and anybody else that's watching. My name's Leprechaun, also Cody. I got mental health problems. I got my struggles on a daily basis. But that ain't going to change who I am.
Absolutely won't change me.
Somewhere.
And to me, that's a greater sign of strength. To accept the fact that we all have our flaws, we have our battles, but you know what? We're still going to do what we need to do every day, take care of who we need to take care of, and we're still going to be the best versions of ourselves. We may fall every so often, and it's okay. We can cry our 10 tears, but you best believe we're going to come back stronger and better than we did before.
Absolutely.
That life, you get two choices. You're either going to live or you're going to exist. I don't want to exist anymore.
I want to live.
You know, and that's something I want every person that struggles with mental health to understand and accept that they're going to have their struggles. It's okay. There are people that give a shit. We're here. But don't ever let it define you. Put that work in.
Right. That's why I had said earlier, the biggest thing that I've learned with the meditation and everything is as hard as things are, is I'm above that current situation. Even though I may struggle, mentally and, have all these, you know, constant overthinking and everything like that, I'm above it. And the biggest thing is you just have to remember that it's all temporary because the next moment is going to change. And being able to sit and talk and having an avenue to be uh, to vent and everything, it is really what's going to help people out. And like I said, for me, it's finding a group of guys or just somebody who I can trust to open up to. And I mean, like I said, I haven't opened up to, the chapter that I'm a part of because again, that's just how um, it's been instilled upon me that we're men. We're not allowed to go through this stuff. It's anytime we have an issue, it's suck it up and move forward. And again, sorry if I sound like crap. I woke up with a sore throat, and this is how I sound right now. But like I said, it's you just have to remember that the situation is temporary because every moment changes throughout our daily lives. We could have one moment as to where and again, this is where the ADHD kicks in. You could have one moment where you're down, the next moment, oh look, something shiny, and you're up again, and then you're down, and you're up, and you're down, and it's as long as you stay focused and you remember who you are as a person, and you have that willingness to talk and the willingness to help out a fellow brother, or it doesn't matter who it is. You know what I mean? As long as you have that willingness to be able to help somebody out, it will still you will feel better about yourself, and it'll help with your own mental issues as well.
Yep,
If I can just add one thing,
absolutely.
I would encourage everybody who's listening to this to not be afraid to get a second opinion, because being diagnosed properly is a key element, I think, because as I was saying, I was misdiagnosed with a personality disorder, and it turns out it was nothing like that. It was just the struggles of well, besides my traumas and PTSD, the struggles of having high capabilities. So and the therapy is completely different from one issue to the other. So make sure you're properly diagnosed and don't be afraid to get a second opinion.
Yep. Now we are hitting just over an hour and a half here, lads. I know Inyaki is he's starting to look like his eyes are getting a little heavy. Rusty's getting a little sore, as am I. So, are there anything else that you boys want to share before we wrap this up?
I think guys need to understand it's okay not to be okay. And anybody who has a problem with you not being okay are really, that's their problem. If you're not okay, that's fine. If they have an issue with that, so what? That's their
If
issue.
anybody
Just deal
has,
with it.
yeah, if anybody has issues with you not being okay, they're not worth your time or effort. Move on.
Absolutely agree.
Yes.
I raised the question: who really is okay? Not faking it.
Yeah.
Right?
I think anybody
And
that
that
says
is the
they're
truest statement you're ever going to hear.
I think anybody that says they're okay, they're lying to themselves.
Yep. It's just not the reality we live in. Everybody has issues. It's 2025. There's issues everywhere. The sooner you accept that you have issues and start putting in the work to manage them, life's going to get much better. There are going to be far more sunnier days than there are rainy days.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Before we put this to an end, I do want to thank each and every one of you for being here. Thank you for sharing your own struggles and things you have been through. And I would like to just thank you for being here in the club, in our lives. Believe me, it's better with you guys here.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Likewise.
Thank you.
We appreciate each and every person. We thank you all, and thank you guys for joining us tonight.
Thanks, guys.